Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Namibian Motorsport Federation 2023 eSports Series. This is the German vs. British Touring Car Series. Today we are coming to you live for the final round of the championship. Coming to you live from the Tony Rust Raceway circuit, in Windhoek, Namibia. So this is the home circuit of the series. The last two rounds have been thankfully hosted here. We were able to get the track created. Thank you very much to a modder by the name of Laser Cutter, aka Laser Cutter. His real name is Dave. So thank you very much to Dave for helping us create the circuit for everyone. Just a little bit of info on the circuit. So of course this is Tony Rust. It is in Namibia. It is 3 sectors, 2.6 kilometers. Top speed recorded on the server was 275.76. That was actually in the German touring cars. It is 5 turns, elevation of 34.74 meters. So this is the final round of the championship, the 10th round. Coming into this round, we have a fairly close point standings. So in the lead, we have Adrian Nel on 146 points from Jean-Louis de Toy on 133. So it's pretty likely that Adrian will take the championship, but it could go either way. We have Jandre Duppenaar on 124 points, so I think it is just between Jandre and Adrian at the moment, but it's most likely that Adrian will take it unless there's a catastrophic event in the race. Richard Sellier in P4, we have Peter Marais in P5, JP Sellier in P6, Dirk Kotze in P7, Andre Besson in P8, Monet de Toy has worked his way up to P9, and Donovan Vermaak has worked his way up to P10. Unfortunately, several of our drivers are not here today, so we have low numbers today. To let you know also how the points structure works. So, P1 will get 20 points, P2 18 points, it'll go down by 2 points until 10 points, and then it's down by 1 point all the way down to P15. 1 point for pole position and 1 point for fastest lap. Right, we're going to now head over to some live feed. The drivers are now on track officially. This is the qualifying. It is a 15-minute qualifying session. This is round 10 of the Namibian Motorsport Federation 2023 eSports Series. I'm your commentator Dennis Mitchell, and I'm joined once again by Sean Woodgate. Good afternoon, Sean.
Good afternoon, Dennis. Good afternoon, everybody. It's going to be interesting to see how the British touring cars are different on the Tony Rust Raceway compared to the German touring cars that we saw last week.
And for a change, I actually didn't introduce it as good evening. I actually got it correct. It is good afternoon.
Yeah, a little bit of cloud about, which could make the track a bit interesting, but let's hope it stays dry. But certainly the guys have been out. Some of them have put in many laps and have been trying their best to improve on their lap times. But the race, even though the circuit doesn't have that many corners, the guys do complain about tyre wear. This corner that you see now is turn 4, and then it sort of just straightens before you go into the... Sorry, they're approaching. There's the downhill. I'm going to make my corners right. That's turn 3, I think it is. Then turn 4, which becomes turn 5, but it's a double change of left, and then up the hill to complete the lap as they go over the crest. So not many corners to this track, but the guys do complain because it's anti-clockwise that the right-hand tires take a lot of wear and a lot of beating by the end of the race.
Right, Peter Marais currently sitting in P4, so the lap times are coming in now, coming in pretty fast. So Adrian Nel currently in provisional pole on a 1 minute 0.8. It's quite a blisteringly fast lap. Then Jean-Louis de Toy in second place on a 101.137. Monet de Toy currently in third place on a 102.384.
Some of the guys were complaining that when they were out in practice, one or two were trying to shave off hundredths of a second. Then you'd hear grumblings in the background that, never mind the point whatever, they are seconds behind and they don't know where to pick them up.
Yeah, it seemed like the top 3 are pretty close, but the gap behind them was about a second to 4th place, and then it's sort of incremental gaps of several tenths down to the last guys. I don't know, I'll just did a fastest first sector.
I'm going to actually go and have a look. I can't remember whether I saved it. where they actually, in the German touring cars, we got below a minute. So
I think it was 54-second lap times then.
okay. So they are quite a bit faster. But the circuit being, actually the straight will be the big difference, because the straight is quite long out of turn 5. It just carries on. Well, the curve seems to carry on forever, but then the straight is very long. It has the German touring cars were actually bumping through, going through that dip, and then they crest, and it's all the way down to where they are about now, and then hard on the brakes for turn 1.
Yeah, when I do that 3D overlay of the track, though, the details there of the track times, that was done from the German touring car with a top speed of 274. That was from the practice times, and the average speed as well was also from their practice times. It actually went slightly faster in qualifying. I think the fastest speed recorded was a 277.
Yeah, that's quick.
277 kilometers an hour, not miles per hour, just for anyone that might be confused.
Well, if you're doing 277 miles, you'll be in a dragster. And you would get it stopped before turn 1.
Jean-Louis Toy heading down into turn 1. Keep it nice and tight to the apex. He actually runs slightly wide. Of course, driving the Hyundai, which is a front-wheel drive, so maybe struggles a bit with turn-in.
Now we mentioned this repetitively already in the British touring cars with a front-wheel drive. You've got to do the braking, the acceleration, and the turning all with the same 2 tires. Whereas if you are rear-wheel drive, that's where your drive comes from, and you only have to do the braking and turning with the front tires. So that's just a subtle difference, and of course the balance and the driving style differs completely if you're driving a car with the rear wheels compared to trying to pull the car straight with the front wheels.
He got a personal best in the middle sector, slightly off of his fastest time in the first sector, so he can still improve here. Currently 3/10 down on Adrian. What will this do? Jumps up to 0.48 down of Adrian, so a much better lap, but not quite there.
It's hundredths of a second, and that really is very, very close.
Yonder Dippenaar, fastest overall in the first sector, but slightly slower in the middle sector.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see. And here it's the combination. Just before that popped away, Genre actually got the best lap time, the best sector time of all in his previous lap in sector 3. So there are sections of the track where the Hyundai is quick, but overall in the total lap time, the BMW seems to be quicker. And then the other car that's around this track, Mornay de Toy, number 62, he's doing the Infiniti Q50. There he is now.
Just coming out of the pits.
You can't miss him. It looks like a popsicle that comes out of an ice cream car.
Very, very colourful.
Very bright.
I think even if you were colourblind, that would still stand out.
Yes. So yeah, but it's nice to see that people get a bit of adventurous with the skins as well, and actually do a bit of effort and make car. There's the flying bumblebee of JP still here. And JP's battling today. He's in 6th of 7 positions. So, very late on the brakes there and doesn't make the corner at all. Well, he makes the corner, but not on the racing line.
So, Genre de Toy personal, actually fastest overall in the first sector. Slightly wide there. I think he would have lost a bit of momentum, but maybe he's up enough so that he can still have a slightly better lap. He is only 0.048 shy of Adrian.
It's half of a tenth of a second, if that makes any sense to anybody.
Right up the hill as he goes into the pits, so he's abandoned that lap.
Maybe going to look for some new rubber. The qualifying time's not, well, it's a short circuit. They do like a minute. So with 15 minutes of qualifying, if you were to stay out all the time, you'd probably get 14 or 15 laps in. But with a tyre change or so, which is probably what the guys would do, with 6 minutes and a half to go or thereabouts, I think also you try and wait to as late as possible. I'm not sure if it makes a difference with these cars, that the track gets rubbered in. There's so much practice that's gone in already. I think as much rubber as the track can take is already on the track, So I don't think the qualifying round will make that much of a difference. But certainly the guys are doing their utmost to get a few laps in. Adrian, for instance, Dennis, with 6 minutes to go, Adrian and Jean have both already done 8 laps, as has Peter Murray as well, and Donovan Vermaak.
Monet heading into Sector 2.
He's in 5th position. He does a personal best for Sector 2 and 3, and stays in 5th position. And he's 1.2 seconds off the pole sitter man, Adrian Nel. But let's work it out. He's about 0.3 of a second behind Peter Murray, 420 in front of him.
I'm not sure with these cars if slipstreaming will be a benefit in the race. If it is, it could make the pack extremely close. We've got 0.4 of a second covering the top 3, 0.9 of a second covering the top 4.
Yep. The thing is just trying to hold on to them, because the guys that have a good racing style and I think the big difference could be is the way and the speed that you actually get out of turn 5 and approach the straight. Because if you're going to be fractionally slow out of 5, your top speed when you get to the brake markers at turn 1 is going to be considerably less than the cars that didn't get such a good exit. So I think the exit out of turn 5 is paramount to getting a good lap around this track.
Interesting as we watch Donovan Vermaak, he's the only driver that's not on the soft tyre. He's running the medium tyre at the moment. Every other driver is running the soft. They have soft, mediums and hards to choose from.
He still has time to go and change, but it'll have to be a quick change, and then he'll have to, but he's gone around again, so we'll have to wait and see if he does have enough time, or even if he thinks about it, to change tyres. But certainly something that his pit crew will have to be very good at if he's going to get another flying lap. The downhill section, which you can see, they just lock up. Now that's, you can just as well abandon that lap and onto the gravel with the right-hand set. That's going to put dirt on the tyres and slow them right down in that sector that I said is so important. Is turns 4 and 5, is to get out of turn 5 at high speed. And with 3 minutes 40, there is enough time, in my opinion, to actually go in for fresh rubber. And he goes right past the pit exit, or the exit off the circuit, onto or into the pits, and he goes round for another lap. Is Adrian Nel the quickest guy by now, 0.08 of a second. So he's managed to put in a good sector 1 personal best, well, the best of anybody on sector 1, and a personal best in sector 3. So that lap combined was just a little bit that he effectively almost doubled the lead. But as I say, that Jean-Ray de Toy comes with 1 minute 00.6 and plants that Hyundai in pole. So whether he's going to make a statement there, and there's 2 minutes 50 to go. So it's up to Adrian now to catch up that 0.155. That's the difference between first and second.
So in the dying moments, will Adrian be able to snatch it back like he's done at some of the previous rounds? See, we have lost one of our drivers. Yandre Dippenaar has left, so hopefully he'll be joining shortly.
Right, that means we've only 6, which, well, I wouldn't say it makes commentary interesting, but certainly you have to look for superlatives to be commentating on the 6 cars. JP's still here. He's still there. He's trying his best. He's only 0.3, 0.4 thereabouts behind the car ahead of him. That's Donovan Vermaak. So that challenge for 5th and 6th could still be interesting in the race itself. And looks like JP's come back again. So it's Donovan in 6th, JP still here in 7th. So we are back to 7 drivers.
Yeah, that was the stutter. Someone joining the server does that.
Yeah.
JP is on for a personal best, sector 1, sector 2, so hopefully he can take back a little bit of time, the 0.170 between himself and Donovan. Maybe he can pinch that, and maybe even another place as he comes across the line. Let's see. He does indeed jump up to 6th place.
Well done, JP. So just holding it there, whatever he did. And it paid off in this round. He is 1 full second behind Mornay du Toit.
And 0.029 ahead of Donovan Vermaak.
Yes, so that battle, I think 5th, 6th and 7th is going to be quite close, or potentially 6th and 7th is going to be quite close. And let's see whether Jean-Ray, who we know has the best lap of 1:00.605, whether Adrian's going to come back to chase at him.
Only 40 odd seconds left to go, so the drivers will be completing these laps now. Looks like...
has stayed out with personal bests.
Yeah.
That 1 minute and 0.6 of a second. 60.6 seconds. Sounds easier to say than 1 minute 0.605.
So Jean-Ray is now heading into the final sector. He should be able to get one last lap in if his tires are still there. Looks like he's just sort of cruising slightly, maybe just prepping for the next lap. Unless he's going to come in, he has 10 seconds to get to the line.
I think he's a bit slow to make that.
And it looks like pretty much all the other drivers have already pitted, so I think he's abandoning. He doesn't need to fear it, so he comes into the pits. Only driver still on track is Donovan Vermaak.
Donovan's best, 1 minute 3.031. And let's see if he can improve on that towards the end of the race. Comes to turn 2 again, that little bit of a lockup. Sorry.
0.011 off his personal best, so not too bad in Sector 1. It is still a lap that he can improve on. As he gets personal best in the middle sector, so he might steal 6th place back. Heading up the hill. Will he take 6th place back? And he does. He steals 6th place back. 0.168 faster than JP Cillier. Alright, we're going to jump to an ad break. We'll be back shortly for a race. See you then.
Till then.
Alright, welcome back everybody to the Namibian Motorsport Federation 2023 eSports Series, the German vs British Series, coming to you live for the race from the Tony Rust circuit. This is round 10 of our 10 round championship. This is a 35-minute race, 2.6 kilometer circuit. I'm your commentator Dennis Mitchell, and I'm joined once again by Sean Woodgate.
Good afternoon, everybody. Nice to be here for the last round in this championship for the Namibian Motorsport Federation.
We can have a look at our starting order. So we have Jean-Louis Toy in pole position from Adrian Nel, Yandre Dupinard and Peter Miret. In 5th place, Mornay du Toy, 6th place, Donovan Vermaak, and in 7th place, JP Salir.
Unluckily, a small number for today. Some of the guys, for work commitments and various other reasons, have not been able to make it. So we will race with what we've got.
And just looking at our standings coming into the final round, we have Adrian Nel on 146 points over Jean-Louis Tour 133, Yandre Dupinard on 124, Richard Salir 94, Peter Miret 67, JP Salir also 67, Dirk Putzer 64, Andre Besson 52, Mornay du Toy 41, and Donovan Vermaak on 40 points. And the point structure for those that would like to have a look, so we could work it out as the race progresses. 1 point for pole, which would have gone to Jean-Louis Toy, 1 point for fastest lap, 20 points for victory, 18 for second, 16 for third, and it goes all the way down to 1 point for 15th place.
There's still a mathematical chance for a change for first and second, but something would have to happen.
Right, the drivers are now slowly working their way around. The safety car will pull in now. The drivers will then put their foot down. They have to stay in formation until they cross the finish line. Alright, it is go. 35 minutes to go.
Seems to be everybody was in position. If anything, JP Salir was lagging a little bit behind, but he is in last position. Let's see if they all get through. Who makes the best? Adrian, does he hold on with that front-wheel drive car of his? Yes, he does. Sorry, Adrian in second. Does Jean-Ray hold on? My brain and my mouth not in the same gear. But look at Adrian, where they go into turn 2. He looks as if he's going to put a car up the inside, but I think he knows he only has to finish this race and get a few points. It's up to Jean-Ray to do all the racing and win. And that being said, Yandre Dupinard locks up and tries to come up on the inside of Adrian Nel at turn 3.
Definitely having a look there, and I think he lost a little bit of ground. But definitely stuck his nose up the inside there and had it cut off.
Yeah, it's a very tight corner that to try and do, and I think you have to be a lot closer to make the car in front of you or take up the space that he leaves open on the circuit. But certainly Adrian settling into, if anything, that second position. But of course, this is 35 minutes of racing, and you need to make the tyres last as well as keep the car on the road. So we'll see how things go. Let's see who's gone for what. Softs, mediums, and hards. The only hards are Donovan Vermaak, and mediums to Adrian Nel, everybody else on softs. So maybe Adrian knows something that the others don't, and he's gone for the medium compound. Are the soft compounds going to last at race pace for the full distance of the race?
I'm quite surprised that we have some guys on soft and one on a hard, that there would be such a wide variety. I can understand maybe one step, some soft, some medium, or some medium, some hard, but yeah, complete opposite ends of the scale. Will that maybe play a part at the end of the race if the hards actually are fast enough at the moment and can play a part?
Yeah, certainly. If the tyres were to go off, and I'm talking about the softs, then Adrian Nel has made a good choice. But if the softs are not going to last the race distance, then Donovan, well, he's gone the extreme from soft to the hard. He's gone the other way. Maybe he can pick up a few positions from 6th position, but we are only guessing at this stage. We'll have to wait and see as the race progresses.
The curb there by Adrian, but managing to keep it on the road.
Yeah, one thing about the Namibian circuit, as compared to some of the circuits we've had the pleasure of commentating on worldwide, is runoff zone equals countryside. There's not even gravel. I think turn 1 has a few bricks that they laid on, but other than that, if you're off the track, you're into the gravel and the grass. And it's not gravel as in gravel chip that's been put down. It's really the southwest or the Namibian bushveld, if there is such a term, and it is very unforgiving. Watch these cars. If you see here on the brake markers into turn 1, there you can see some brick has been put down. So I think maybe they've had a few serious offs there. So they want to retain the ability. They've also put in a runoff zone there that you can actually go take the wide loop. Maybe it's something like a penalty, a long lap that you have in MotoGP, but it's going to cost you time. So that in itself is a penalty for going off the circuit, but they don't want you to wreck your car.
Battle years for 6th place as well. So it's a nice battle actually going on here between JP Sillier and Donovan Vermaak.
Yeah, that's the one we predicted is right at the back of the field. Donovan is ahead of JP by less than a second. So that is the one that could be taken all the way to the end. JP Sillier in the Flying Bumblebee. Or last week, I think we called it the Humble Hornet, because certainly going around and keeping that car on track. No major challenges, and also if you look at the time splits, I don't expect Adrian to be chasing Jean-Ray. He's a second behind, with the risk that goes with that and the championship in mind. Then first, second and third, as you see them now, the lean green machine up front, Jean-Ray du Toit, that's the Hyundai, and Adrian now in the red car behind him. He's following, but let's see what the gap is. Also under a second, Adrian now all of a sudden half a second behind Jean-Ray. Did Jean-Ray make a mistake out of picture? Because look at how close first, second and third are now. There might still even be a change, but a lock-up by Adrian going into 4.
We have seen at some of the other rounds, the front-wheel drive car is fast, but it seems to wear its tires out faster, so it kind of goes off mid-race. So it looks like Adrian is already catching slightly, and we're only a couple of minutes in.
And also, there's a tyre compound difference between Jean-Ray and Adrian, to the benefit of Adrian later in the race. Because Jean-Ray's on the softs, with a car that we know is heavy on tyres. Although everybody complains about tyre wear, if you're on a slightly harder compound, then you're going to have slightly more tyres available for you towards the end of the race. So Donovan Vermaak on the hard, he's managed to increase the gap between himself and JP Sillier, who's on the softs. So that gap was, we said, about a second. It's back to about a second. So it's as good as makes no difference at this stage. Somebody who has lost distance is Jandre there in third. He was a lot closer, but now finds himself quite a bit of a distance behind Adrian Nel. Jandre runs car number 9. Adrian Nel, car number 15.
Yeah, so the gaps are spreading slightly. Adrian is closing slightly on Jean-Ray, or managing to keep the gap within a second. But third and fourth are slowly falling back.
Yeah, it's 1.6 seconds that Jandre is behind Adrian, 1.6 seconds that Peter is behind Jandre, and then a handful of seconds that Mona is behind Peter. So, and even more than that down to Donovan. It's only between Donovan and JP. Where is the Flying Bumblebee? That's going to be pretty close. Mona's car, of course, in that bright. There's the battle that I was talking about. The Flying Bumblebee is coming along really well. So JP's going to challenge, and he's going to get the pass done.
I wonder who's going to be braver. JP's ahead slightly.
Yeah, it's a left-hander, so he was on the right side of the circuit, if that makes... Got to think about what I say there. He was well positioned for the way in which the track was going, and then of course now that he's made the pass, now he can run his own race and run his own racing lines as long as he can keep Donovan behind him. Now that's strange. Well, not strange, because JP's on the softs and Donovan on the hards, so maybe the grip is just very good on the softs at the moment. But is Donovan going to come back at him later on because of the compound difference and the way that this track abrades? Look at the exit speed that Donovan gets out of that corner, turn 5. And he's well positioned for turn 1, up on the inside. We're going to see a change for 6th and 7th again. or the flying bumblebee goes off, he takes out all the brake markers.
That could throw other people in the barriers because they're going to come down there looking for markers and not have any.
Yeah. So turn one, hairpin, of course, to the left. Then they have a left 90 degree, and then that's this one here, and then a right going down the hill. There's a right hand 90 degree. So that's turns 2. This coming up now is turn 3, the one at the bottom of the hill. And that'll take them through to turn 4, which essentially they call a turn on its own. But I think similar to Leeuwkop, you have to take it in conjunction with turn 5. You've got to get turn 4 right though. The other track straightens slightly, and then immediately thereafter goes into the sweep to go into the straight and the finish line.
Alright, let's see. Will Donovan be able to just pull away from JP? I mean, we saw in the slipstream how much he closed, but it looks like he's pulling, so I don't think it was a slipstream. Maybe it's just lower wing settings.
Maybe he just didn't have a good moment to allow JP to get past. If you make a mistake, of course, then your competitor is going to pounce on you. What's happening up front? Adrian is about 0.8 of a second behind John Ray. So that's staying pretty much constant, but they are getting rid of Jandre. Jandre Dipnar now 2.5 seconds behind Adrian, so quite a bit further back. But everything to score. But the way they're running now, Adrian has to do exactly that. Just stay behind John Ray, take no risk. Make sure that there's nobody behind him that might just bump into him, which would be detrimental to his position. And he can finish like that and win the championship quite comfortably.
Just looking at the color coding there on the box on the bottom right, the driver box, you can see the green, that's the throttle position. The red will be the brake position. We can see the gear is in, we can see his speed, his revs, and of course the gap between the drivers.
A lot of information all in one box, which makes it really nice, so that you actually sit effectively in cockpit, or you can think what the driver is doing in the cockpit. You can see it visually in front of you there. And although it is a digital number, racing cars don't have speedometers because the guys don't want to know what speed they're doing. They race it. They normally have a series of lights that indicates to them when they should change the gear. And they have the rev counter, which has probably got a big mark as well, what revolutions not to exceed. And then most racing cars have a massive big red light right in front of the driver, and that's the one you never want to see, because that means your engine's blown and you've lost oil pressure. So that's normally a light, if anything, it's about 5 centimeters in diameter, and you don't want to see that one. So what's the gap down? It's still 0.6, 0.7 a second. So Adrian is keeping Jean-Ray honest. He's letting him know that he's there, and Jean-Ray will be well aware of the red BMW that is following in the lean green machine, the Hyundai's rearview mirrors. Also the positioning, if you look at these cars, of the wing at the back, the Hyundai of course doesn't have a boot, so the wing is mounted on the back end of the car, on the, what you call it, the tailgate, not the tailgate, but that flap that forms the hatch. And the BMW having a boot, it's mounted on the boot. So I think there's a little bit of a gap from the roof to the wing on the BMW, whereas the Hyundai, I think it's a little bit closer. So I think, if anything, if one has to talk aerodynamics, maybe the Hyundai has cleaner air over the wing than what the BMW is, but it's going to be very, very marginal.
You know that car shape does play a major part in the British Touring Car Championship many years back. We actually had the Volvo station wagon race, and it was banned for being overly efficient versus the other sedans. Because of the straight nature of the roof, it actually did help with the rear wing.
Jan Lammers used to race one of those, the S40 I think it was.
Oh,
big genre off the road. That's a championship, I think. And as we said, the Namibian bush is unforgiving, and that gap is where he was in the lead. He's now behind by 1.3 seconds.
no, that's a big shame.
Trying to think who the other driver was of that box-shaped Volvo. Jan Lammers was the one, and they were very, very... Ricard Radel, if memory serves correct.
Could have been, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had all kinds of weird kinds of cars that get used in motorsport, from six-wheel Formula One cars to strangest shapes and configurations, but ultimately they are prototypes They're pushing the limits, they're trying to find what works, and in some cases they get banned because of either an advantage or because of them just being dangerous.
Yeah, of course. You want to keep racing as close as possible. So, but certainly it was a production car. So they did eventually take the car off, or as you say, they banned it. And while we're talking about that, I am testing my memory. And with the nice things about Google, I think I'm correct. Yes, it was Jan Lammers and Rickard Rydell that raced that car many years ago. Sometimes I remember the most useless pieces of information, and don't ask me why.
I actually quite like the appearance of that station wagon. It looked quite nice in race trim. I don't think I'd ever buy one, but it actually looked nice visually on track.
The other thing that it had as an advantage, being a station wagon, the wheels were, I think the wheelbase was slightly longer, and the wheels were closer to the, shall we call it, the corner of the car. There was less hanging over ahead of the front wheels or behind the rear wheels, so they actually got a really, really good road holding out of them as well.
I think visually also the station wagon just looks like it's lower because there's more length. Maybe it's just sort of a trick to the eye.
Yes. But
Something about a race car, sort of low and squat, as we see Donovan running wide in the background. A lower, more sort of squat car, you just have the impression is going to be a car that handles better because of weight distribution, lower center of gravity. And maybe that was something that also played a part of the station wagon, is the center of gravity.
Yeah, but certainly JP Silvier, where's Donovan got to? He's about 3 seconds behind him now as I go through turn 3. And that's if you look at a little mistake like that from Donovan, just sticking the rear wheels on the curbing and the sort of car bounces offline, then you've got to recollect it. That makes you slow out of turn 3, which makes you slow into turn 4, which will mean your exit speed out of turn 5 is going to be slow, and ultimately it affects your top speed as you go over the crest and down the bottom towards turn 1. So all of those things amalgamated and put together means that you are losing distance between yourself and the car in front of you. So Donovan is 3.5 seconds behind JP Silvier. The big mistake was from Jean-Ray Dutoy having quite a big off, and he's now 1.9 seconds behind Adrian Nel, the race and championship leader.
Yeah, I think the problem was he had a little bit of understeer and maybe just powered on a bit too aggressively, and it induced even more understeer. It's the problem with the front wheel drive cars. When you put your foot down, you tend to get understeer because everything's pulling rather than pushing. So you can't put your foot down, you've got to sort of feed it on differently.
Yeah, allow the car to catch up with the front wheels, something like that.
Yes, and you've got to kind of use a bit of lift off oversteer in between applying the throttle, try and get it to rotate. And it's a difficult game, but when you get it right, it's quite rewarding, but you obviously didn't get it quite right that time.
Andre Dipnard, 2.2 seconds. So the gap between first and second to third is both about the same, just over 2 seconds or thereabouts. Then there's a big gap down to Peter Marais, 6 seconds, 6.5 seconds in fourth position. Morne du Toit in the Flying Lollipop, he's in 18 seconds behind Peter Marais. JP Silvier, the Flying Bumblebee, is another 15 seconds back in sixth. And Donovan Vermaak almost 5 seconds behind JP in seventh position.
So it looks like the gap at the moment between Yondre and Jean-Ray is closing. Adrian is pulling away. And it looks like possibly as the race progresses, we're going to have Yondre Dipnard catching up to Jean-Ray du Toit, which we have seen in some of the previous races. That's what happens with the front wheel drive. It just goes through its tires. Come mid-race, it starts to drop off. And we are at that point now, mid-race. So possibly he's going to start hitting some tire issues.
Well spotted, Dennis, because I cast my eye onto the last lap column, and Jan-Ray a 101.9, Jean-Ray a 102.4. That's half a second in one lap, and he's only 1.7 seconds. So 3 laps, which they've got plenty time to do. They've got 17 minutes to go, so probably 17, 18 laps to go. So they're both on soft compounds, but it's a rear-wheel drive that Jan-Ray is driving, the BMW, versus the front-wheel drive Hyundai i30 that Jean-Ray is driving. So interesting to see how this is going to evolve. Let's just keep that number in mind, 2 seconds as they go through turn 1.
Yeah, it's fluctuating depending on the parts of the circuit, but it definitely looks, certainly by the lap times, as if, well, maybe the last lap he did a 1:01.8, the one before that was a 1:02, so maybe he's just struggling with consistency as the tires are wearing.
Yeah, it's a very difficult thing if you have a bit of a guesswork to do as to what the tire is going to allow you to do through a corner, and you get the corner 100% right, or the tire starts sliding and you have to change the line slightly, correct it, and then get the car. But the important thing is keep the car on the road. As you say, he seemed to get it all correct the last lap, the John Ray, the 101.8 versus the 101.9 from Jandre. And having these two run on the same pieces of road is a nightmare for a commentator. It's like Alessandro Nannini and Nicola Larini. They were very difficult guys to do commentary on. But at this stage, Jean Ray's hanging on to it all. Slower lap, a 102 dead versus a 101.7 of Jandre de Penard. So you can always see them, that camera position there. You see the two cars go through. The lean green machine up against Jandre's red and white car. And Jandre is not letting him get away. It's still 1.8 seconds as they go onto the brakes there for turn 3. Then it'll be downhill on the curb and a little bit onto the dirt with the front wheels. So now you've got a bit of guessing to do into turn 4. He seems to get that one nicely square. Doesn't really use... No, he actually just gets onto the yellow line. So he uses all of the track available to him. And then turns it into turn 4, which straightens, and then the sweep for turn 5 and back up the hill again.
Well, gaps kind of seem to be fluctuating. It's almost neutralized, but at certain parts of the lap, Jandre is looking good, and then other parts he definitely loses time. So the gap to Ardern is now 3 seconds, and the gap to Jandre is now 1.3 seconds.
Yeah, all the time changing. So there's a nice, we've said it before, if ever you're going to want to put a number on your car, look at the one from Jandre de Penard, that nice big number 9, and even though it's not a solid font, it certainly does stand out and is easily visible. Although, that being said, when you look at the bottom right, then the caption shows you exactly the number, the car, who's the driver, who he's racing for, and also how far they are, the gap between the two of them. Here you can see the hunter and the hunted is what I call this shot. The lean green machine is Jean-Ray de Toy. And this is being looked at on the left-hand side out of Jandre de Penard's car looking forward. And then on the right-hand side is out of Jean-Ray's car looking backward at Jandre de Penard.
Let's see in the braking zone, the gap on the straight is 1.5. As we go into the brakes, let's see what it will come down to. Probably 1.3, 1.2, but no, it actually extends.
So Jean-Ray had probably a good exit out of turn 5 and then just got the car really going well, because yes, he's kept it at 1.5 all along. So maybe he's just concentrated enough to make that work for him. Now the mediums, for some reason, the hards for Donovan haven't worked at all. Whether it's the tyre to be blamed or Donovan himself or the car setup, one would never know. But you can see that, that's the hard that Donovan's driving. Ardra now on the medium, he's flying along. And I think had the others gone for the medium rather than the soft, but I suppose you have to have an element of gambling if you've got to challenge the champion. And at this stage, I think they're catching up to the back mark of Donovan for Mark. He might be in the way of the race leaders. He'll get a blue flag, I'm sure, and he will probably stay clear of the racing line. As he does, he goes to the outside of the corner and stays there, which is clear indication for the other guys, get up on my left-hand side and pass, which they all do. He might actually be in the wrong part of the corner for Jandre in third. And he gets it wrong. The camera panned away, he managed to catch it again, but he did clip a curb with the wheel, but he got it all under control again, and Jandre de Penard goes past as well.
Yeah, I'm sure Jandre's heart was in his mouth there, seeing the car in front of him, a back marker, getting it sideways. You're not sure, is he going to snap and suddenly come across you and ruin your race? But it all turned out alright. And he actually closed down to 1.3 seconds at the moment on Jean de Toy.
So potentially the back marker did have an influence on the gap between Jean-Ray and Jan-Ray, and it's all well that ends well. Nobody actually came close. So, but the race leader is the one that's smiling all the way to the championship. It's 2.5 seconds that Adrianel leads Jean-Ray de Toy in the Hyundai.
The gaps throughout the field, it's 2.3 between Adrian and Jean-Ray. It is 1.6 between Jan-Ray and Jean-Ray, and it is 12 seconds between Peter Miret and Jan-Ray Dupinot. And then Monet de Toy is 22 seconds further back off Peter Miret. JP is 15 seconds back off Monet. And unfortunately 13 seconds back and thus lapped, we have Donovan Vermaak. So I think the next driver to be lapped will be JP Cilliers.
Yeah. If you look at the fastest laps for the individual drivers, just by comparison, 101.2 for Adrian Nel, and the slowest lap is the one for Donovan Vermaak, 103.6. So I'm not sure if that might, and that's a bit unfair to him because he had to stay out of the way of the race leaders. But just ahead of him, JP Cilliers, 103.3, and Monet de Toy, 102.7. So give you an idea of the difference. It doesn't sound like much, but a second per lap for 35 laps, you're going to be, and sometimes even more than that, you're going to be somewhere between 30 and 50 seconds behind the race leader if you are that far behind, or if you have that slower lap time every lap. So the Flying Bumblebee, JP Cilliers, in 6th position and holding on. As we said, he's got about 24-second lead ahead of Donovan Vermaak. Donovan had to stay out of the way of the race leaders. Are these the race leaders catching up to JP Cilliers?
They are, yes, indeed.
It might just be at the right place, actually. They're a little bit further back. It'll probably be turn 2 if I look at the gap here. They'll catch up quite a bit down the hill to turn 1, but I don't think they'll be close enough to him to do the pass. No, definitely not. It'll be turns 2, 3, and 4, thereabouts, that they will come into contention. Adrian really taking that corner very tight and then drifting all the way out. So here they go up the hill now to the left-handed turn 2 as the car ahead disappears out of sight. Right, there's turn 2, and then they'll go down to turn 3, the right-hander. There's the Flying Bumblebee. I did predict turns 2, 3, 4, and it's there. But now, what line for him to take to stay out of the way of the race leader? It's always difficult because you're running your own race. You're trying to be as clean and smooth as possible. He hugs the inside line. So, yes. And he kept consistently at it. He didn't drift out to the outside of the corner, which is a good thing. And Adrian could just float out to the outside of the corner and go past him quite comfortably.
Of course, this could now play a part between Jan-Ray and Jean-Ray because they are a lot closer. If one of them is held up, that could either extend the gap or close the gap. You see JP moving right out of the way, so it definitely wouldn't have held up Jean-Ray.
Yeah. What's he going to do for turn 2? Turn 2 is still quite a distance away, and Jan-Ray is also a little bit further back, so his turns 2 and 3 going to be to the detriment of Jan-Ray Dupinot, because it makes it difficult with a double change in direction for the 2 corners, because you've got to line your own car up. Even though you're a back marker, you want to line your car up with the corner, and I think he just hugs it right. So that'll slow JP Cilliers down, but well done to him to stay out of the way of Jan-Ray Dupinot. So the front 3 cars have already got past JP Cilliers, who's running 6th, and Donovan Vermaak, who's running in 7th.
Don't know if Peter Miret is going to catch up to JP, but he might possibly catch him towards the end of the race.
It's 8 minutes to go, and he was 15, 16 seconds behind Jan-Ray. Now, if we look at the last lap times, then Jan-Ray was doing 102.4s and Monet doing 103.8. So I think the gap is going to be just a little bit too much for Peter to catch up to Monet as well.
Oh, Peter is ahead of Monet. You mean with Donovan, sorry. And JP.
Yeah. Yes. Here's turn 4, the right-hander. Seems innocuous enough, but we've seen guys go sliding out of that.
So it looks like the gap with Yandre Dippenaar has extended to Jandre, so it's staying much the same 3-second gap between Adrian and Jandre. But now it looks like Yandre has slowly fallen off. Now that could have just been because of the back marker, maybe just the point of the circuit where they caught up to him. We do now see the fastest lap of the race for Jandre de Toy over 101.205 still. That is about 7 tenths off of what it did on the last lap. So 7 tenths from fastest to current time, and it's about the same with Adrian. He did a 101.2 as his fastest, and he's about 8 tenths shy of that, so very, very close. But with Yandre Dippenaar, the gap is about a second, so it's actually a slightly bigger gap between fastest and current time.
Yeah, the tires for that medium compound that Adrian is running on, I think is working well for him with 6.5 minutes to go. Everybody else on the softs except for Donovan at the back end of the field on the hards, which didn't work out for him at all. There's a bit of a car on the dirt for Yandre Dippenaar, but he's consolidated third position. As if they stick to the black stuff, then I don't foresee any way that Peter Murray is going to catch up to Yandre. So the podium will be Adrian from Jandre from Yandre.
Yandre seems to be doing fine in the first sector. The last lap he did fastest overall in the first sector, but struggled in the middle sector. And his lap time in the end was once again a second off his fastest time. So he seems to be losing it a lot in the middle sector.
And as the fuel load burns off, I just picked up out of the corner of my eye before the times disappeared, Adrian now put up a personal best for sector 2 and 3. So even though he doesn't have the fastest lap, he is still motoring along very nicely. If you look at his lap times, a 101.28 the last lap, and Jandre de Toy 101.6. So 0.3 of a second, the difference between them, give or take a hundredth of a second or two. So that's pretty much staying constant. If you're counting in the hundredths of a second, you can't blink that fast. So they are keeping their times very constant, which means the gap between them is also staying pretty constant.
Just looking at the last laps, we saw Jandre de Toy who did a fastest final sector, and we did Adrian in the last lap did the fastest middle sector. So the sector times are improving as Adrian just goes fastest in the first sector, fastest overall. So maybe with the fuel load dropping, it's giving them more time than what tires are dropping off. So the tires are hanging in there enough for the fuel load to actually be giving them a benefit in lap time.
Also keeping in mind that they probably would have put enough fuel on board to do the race plus, let's say, 2 laps in case it's something untoward. If they were to have a safety car or anything like that, you burn a lot less fuel because you'll be going at probably a third of the speed you'd like to be going at. And so the fuel load does become important as the car becomes lighter. Some cars it's a bigger benefit than others, but certainly Adrian, the choice of the medium compound has served him very well in this race.
Peter Murray is slightly lonely 4th place at the moment, but doing a solid position, a solid job so far, I should say.
He's 17 seconds behind Yandre Dippenaar, but half a minute ahead of Morné de Toy. So there's Morné de Toy, who has just got past Donovan Vermaak. We were talking about that earlier. So Morné did catch and pass Donovan Vermaak.
Right, it also looks like JP was eventually lapped as well, so he has been, both position 6 and 7 have been lapped by the leaders.
Yeah. So the gaps, I'm just trying to figure out, there's JP still here, and he's in 6th position. I'm trying to see where Morné is, how far Morné is ahead of him, but then again, it's half a lap. So if he's going through turn 5 now, then Morné is probably into turn 2 already, thereabouts. So you probably won't see them unless over here at this point, if you look across the track, but it goes fast in a blur, then you might have had the chance to see Morné de Toy already approaching turn 2 and 3, because they're probably on different sides of the track at the same time.
We're now seeing that the gap between, Yandre runs off there. Just set the fastest first sector, so obviously still pushing, and then just got it all wrong. I was about to say the gap between Adrian and Jandre just suddenly increased. So perhaps Jandre made a mistake, and then we saw Jandre making a mistake.
It's getting to that time in the race with just over 2 minutes to go. So it'll be 2 laps plus maybe another one if they're, depending when they go across the finish line. So here comes Jandre du Toit, and he's about to finish this lap, but of course it'll depend when Adrian is finished. So they will probably get, if you look there, it's 1 minute 56. So they might get 2 laps, or they will definitely get 2 laps installed. They'll finish this one and one more. There we see Adrian now, and he's certainly trying to catch up to Morne du Toit, who's on the brakes a little bit over enthusiastically, specifically with 1.5 minutes to go. You don't want to be locking up the brakes. That's the downhill corner turn 3, then it's 4 and 5 that comes up. So Adrian now is going to get him in 4 and 5. He just has to keep his wits about him. Let's see what he does. And he, that I'm referring to Morne. See here, Morne drifts out to the outside and back to the inside, which is almost the racing line, and not quite the outside, middle of the road a bit, and then he keeps the left-hand side. That'll allow Adrian now, does it? I think he's now noticed that he's there, but he's actually racing for position in turn 1, and he would have got the blue flag there, and eventually Adrian now does come through, and I don't think it's an ideal line into and out of that corner. Adrian has to sort of use part of that wide loop of the track to position the car, but he gets through nonetheless. And the gap between Adrian and Jandre is still 4.3 seconds.
Right, and Jandre is still in 3rd place, so 5.4 seconds back. And then we have Peter Murray, another 17 seconds back. I think this is the last lap. It's going to be close. But Adrian came across the line with about 1 minute and 1 second to go. So depending if he does a very fast lap, I think he will just cross the line and have to do another lap.
There's Adrian, I think we saw in the distance going into turn 4.
I think this is going to be the last lap. I think he's going to cross the line just before it goes
6
right.
seconds.
Yes. Takes the checkered flag. So congratulations to Adrian now on victory in round 10. Jandre du Toit comes across line 2nd.
4.2 seconds adrift, but I think it's that one big mistake that made all the difference. Andre Dippenaar another 2.5 seconds back, so certainly no change that happened in the latter half of the race, other than, well, the one big change that we did see is Jandre du Toit getting off the circuit, and that allowed Adrian past, and then all things being equal, that was done, the race done and dusted for the day.
All right, well, that's the end of the race. We're going to head off to a quick ad break before we jump to the interviews for the top 3 drivers and congratulate our champions. So we'll be back shortly.
Until then.
right, welcome back everyone to the conclusion of the Namibian Motorsport Federation 2023 eSports Series, round 10, coming to you live from the Tony Russ Raceway in Windhoek, Namibia. The conclusion of our series. We have our top 3 drivers for the race. So this round we have Adrian Nel in first place, Jean-Louis du Toit in second place, and Jan-Ray Duppenaar in third place. Sean, would you like to do the interviews?
Well, just one big question, and it's actually going to go to Jean-Ray. In the lean green machine, you made us all sit very upright abruptly. What went wrong in that one corner for you to go off the road?
I just tried to stay on the inside line because I saw Arjan coming with quite some speed. And once this front wheel drive car tires goes, there's no stopping it. They just can't do lap times anymore. So yeah, I just had to brake too late, and then when he passed, I just couldn't catch up anymore.
Okay, so you were actually going to stay out of his way and then let him go through and then consolidate second position.
Yeah, I would have tried and blocked for maybe 2 corners, but I think on the straight and on turn 1, his braking was a bit better than mine, so he would have taken the lead there anyway.
We did mention in commentary, or I did mention, that the exit speed out of turn 5 is actually, people would probably not think that it's so important, but you have to be quick out of turn 5 to get a good top speed through the straight and up to the brake markers at turn 1. Do you guys actually find it like that the exit out of turn 5 is very important?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. That's it for me, Dennis. The rest of the race ran for itself. And the people that should win, you see them, the names displayed there.
Then just a couple of questions for our drivers. Adrian, you had quite a spectacular championship. You struggled at some rounds. There seemed to be a bit of a trend where Jean-Ray would be quicker in the first half of the races, and he was your main challenger, and then you would be quicker in the latter stages of the race. Did you find that your car being rear-wheel drive, his car being front-wheel drive, it paid dividends come race distance versus just sort of qualifying pace, or did you find you had an advantage maybe in qualifying as well?
For this round, definitely the front-wheel drive at the pace. And the tire wear worked into the rear-wheel drive's favor. But on the other races, well, yeah, the front-wheel drive's at pace, but the BMW was strong, to be honest with you. There was a BOP change mid-season, but yeah, it helped the front-wheel drives, but the rear-wheel drives are strong throughout. So,
Well, congratulations on race 1 victory.
thanks.
Oh, race victory. There is no race 2, sorry. Jan-Ray, you also had a lot of pace. You seem to always struggle in the qualifying to get ahead of Jean-Ray, but in the race, your pace is very, very equal to his. It looked at one point like you were going to catch him. His tire was sort of mid-race, as always. The front-wheel drive seemed to start having more tire issues, and you started to close. And then with that issue that he had where he ran off, he made another mistake later in the race, and then you also made a mistake. Were you also struggling with your tires towards the end of the race?
Yes, I was struggling towards the end of the race. I think I had on the fronts I had 28% left, and I just pushed too hard, and I almost made 2 mistakes that could have cost me the position that I got. And yeah, I'm not sure what it would have done to the championship, but I think it could have been detrimental.
All right. Well, perhaps we can just head off then to show. Oops, sorry about that. We can show our current champion is Adrian Nel. So congratulations to Adrian. You are the 2023 Namibian Motorsport eSports Series champion. Congratulations. Perhaps you can just give us a roundup. What was your championship like? What was the pros and cons? Did you have any ups? Did you have any downs?
I'm very, very, I must say, happy with this. The drivers really pushed me, especially Jean-Ray and Jean-Ray. Very good drivers in their own right. I struggled in the beginning, especially with hardware problems, knocking me out of the first round, and then definitely with setup. The guys had me beaten setup for the first few rounds, especially with the DTM car. I had so much tire wear I couldn't put some work in it, and it paid off at the end of the day. Could save the tires more, and yeah, but it wasn't an easy championship. It was close throughout, to be honest. Yeah, I'm very delighted.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks so much.
And then just looking at our standings for the championship. So overall, we have Adrian, you taking the win on 167 points from Jandre on 152 points. Jandre, you were on 140 points in the third place. So it was quite close between the three of you. And Richard Celia on 104 points, Peter Marais 81 points, JP Celia 77, Dirk Kotze 64. Monet worked his way up to 8th place on 53 points, 1 point ahead of Andre Besson, and Donovan Vermaak taking 10th place on 49 points. All right, we're going to just say goodbye to all our drivers. So thank you very much for competing, and thank you and congratulations.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Well done, guys.
All right, so maybe we can just say our goodbyes now. Fantastic championship. Unfortunately, the numbers were a bit low at certain rounds, including this one, due to drivers having other commitments in the real world. Hopefully, we'll be doing this again next year, and the numbers can double, or if not triple. It's been an exciting championship. Thank you very much to the FIA for giving us the opportunity to do this. And I'm sure the Namibian Motorsport Federation is very proud of what they have achieved. And congratulations once again to Adrian Nel.
Yes, indeed. And thanks to you, Dennis, for dragging me along.
Yes, thank you very much, Sean. It's been a privilege having you join us.
It's only been a pleasure from my side, and great news to be commentating on a series that is FIA approved, run by the Namibian Motorsport Federation, and certainly interesting to have it with two different cars. And we've heard from the drivers as to what they prefer and what they didn't, and it's certainly kept us going as well, having to remember which car they are driving. And it's been a great load of fun and interesting to see the Tony Rust circuit on the map in sim racing. So well done to them as well.
All right, then hopefully we'll catch you all next year for a repeat. If not, we'll catch you whenever we do. So thank you very much for watching. Remember to hit the like and subscribe button to keep up with any Namibian Motorsport Federation activity on their channel. I'm sure there will be other activities happening with other championships. But until we see you again, have a good week further.
Cheers, everybody.